This tutorial is for 3rd grade, Module 3, Lesson 19. In this lesson, we're going to use our basic multiplication facts to help us multiply by multiples of 10. Multiples of 10 are numbers like 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. So the numbers that we say when we skip count by 10. And we can see that there's a pattern that we can use when we multiply numbers by multiples of 10. The first section says use the discs to fill in the blanks in the equations. You can see by my first problem that I have an array that's showing 4 rows of 3 ones. 4 times 3 is 12 ones, and 4 times 3 is 12. Now that relates to the next problem. Here, instead of having 4 rows of 3 ones, I have 4 rows of 3 tens. There's 3 tens in each row. That gives me a total of 12 tens. If I have 12 tens, I have 120. That tells me that 4 times 30 is 120, because 30 is the same thing as 3 tens. So 4 times 3 tens is 12 tens. That's the same as taking 4 times 30, which gives me 120 for my final product. Here's another example, only this time we're using the place value chart. The first problem is showing us 2 times 4 ones. If you think about this, we started with 4 ones, and then we doubled it when we took it times 2. So that gave us 8 ones altogether. That tells me 2 times 4 equals 8. That connects to the next problem. Here I have 2 times 4 tens, which means I started with 4 tens, and I doubled that amount, and that gave me 8 tens. 2 times 4 tens is 8 tens, just as 2 times 40 is 80, because that first group of 4 tens is the same as 40. So if we double 40, we get 80 for our answer. So you can see the connection between 2 times 4 and 2 times 40. Here's another example. This one starts with 3 times 5 ones. If I look at my one group, that would be 5 ones, and then you can see I've tripled that amount when I multiplied it by 3. That gave me 15 ones. 3 times 5 then is 15. Let's connect that to the next problem. Here we have 3 times 5 tens. I start with 5 tens, which is the same thing as 50, and I tripled that amount. That gave me 15 tens. 15 tens is the same as 150. So 3 times 50 is 150. And again, you can see the connection between the two answers. We'll keep those problems in mind as we fill in the blanks on these equations. The first problem is simply 7 times 2, which is 14. And we can think of that as 7 ones times 2. When I look at the problem next to it, I see that I have 7 tens times 2. That would give me 14 tens. Let's move to the next problem. 8 times 3 is 24. If I have 8 tens times 3, that would give me 24 tens. The next problem is 60 times 5. I can think of 5 times 6. 5 times 6 is 30. That would be 5 times 6 ones. So if I take 5 times 6 tens, that would give me 30 tens. 30 tens is the same as 300. Another way to look at that is 5 times 6 times 10. 5 times 6 is 30, times 10 is 300. Here I have 4 times 80. I can think of the 80 as 8 times 10. Then 4 times 8 is 32. 32 times 10 is 320. The next problem, we have 7 times 40. I'm going to think of 40 as 4 times 10. 7 times 4 is 28, times 10 is 280. And finally, we have 50 times 8. I'm going to think of 50 as 5 times 10. I can take 8 times 5 and get 40. 40 times 10 is 400.